Josh Klipp. I am the founder and principal of Made Welcome, which is a consulting firm focused on accessibility at workplaces and events. I am a recovering attorney. I like to say I spent over 16 years in the public sector working for various government agencies specializing in the ADA. I left litigation to start my own consulting practice, which is Made Welcome, and I also am a certified access specialist through California's Division of the State Architect. My current clients range from state and local governments covered by ADA Title II, as well as large retailers such as Starbucks, covered by the ADA's Title III. And I also teach a certification course on event accessibility. Accessibility should be built into your conference planning from the moment you start planning your event. Um, Unfortunately, this tends not to happen, and then accessibility is not considered until the last moment, which can lead to a lot of panic and heartache and sometimes unanticipated expense. But if you integrate accessibility into your event planning from the outset, so much of that can be avoided. Events basically fall under the ADA's Title III requirements for places of public accommodation. So the baseline expectation is the requirement to provide effective communication. You can build this into your event by proactively providing captions and communicating this to your guests ahead of time. You should still, however, offer your guests the opportunity to request reasonable accommodation for a disability. You may get requests for other forms of effective communication because one type of communication, for example, may not work for everyone. When it comes to communications, it's not the case that one size fits all. That said, a baseline provision of AI generated captions, for instance, is a great place to start, especially if you provide it not just via an app, but also via projection, so that people who use those captions aren't stuck looking down at their phone while other things may be taking place visually on stage. I would add that a lot of these AI generated caption services also provide translation services into multiple languages. And so if you were to integrate AI generated captioning into your event as a baseline service for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, that could also be a benefit to people who have limited English proficiency. Real-time AI translation is an inclusion strategy because one, it communicates to your guests that you are working hard to anticipate their needs so that they feel fully seen and included at your event. And two, it may relieve some anxiety experienced by guests who may otherwise worry about being able to fully participate at your event. This second point segues into how this is a revenue driver because first, if you don't have anxiety about how you're going to fully engage, then you're more likely to register and attend. And second, we all know that most events are either fully or at least partially focused on sales. So the more people who can attend without fear of exclusion, the more sales your event is going to make. And not only that, but those sales can quite literally be more global with AI translation services because language is not a barrier to those transactions. Types of post-conference content, I would recommend you apply the same ADA Title III requirement to provide effective communication. So videos, for example, make sure that those have captions and ideally transcripts as well. For documents and other digital content, making sure that those meet the most current WCAG AA requirements. And for all other materials, if those somehow cannot be made accessible immediately, I recommend a statement that you're happy to provide these in alternative formats upon request. If I had to list my top three, I'd say inaccessible registration processes. This is really important. The registration is like the front door. If you can't get through the front door, you can't attend the event. So that's the first. Second, I'd say event furnishings and the way that they tend to be set up, which is really inaccessible and can even impede pre-existing access. And then finally, I would say all things audio. For example, don't just say, "Can you hear me?" without a mic. Please don't do that. And recommending to caption everything. Captions just make life better for everyone. There's no downside. Can say is that if you estimate that 1 in every 4 people has some type of a disability in the United States, then including 25% more people in your event will, by virtue of basic math, impact your ROI. Generally, I think this goes back to the question where I mentioned that most events are centered on sales. It's just math that the more people are included, the increased sales. And when inclusion bridges languages as well, now you're talking about global reach, which is also, again, just basic math for increased sales. If the language barrier is gone, then there's less barrier to sales, sponsorship, there's more global reach, and yes, it even bolsters and improves your reputation. Because when people can easily communicate, we can form stronger bonds and relationships. It makes us a stronger community, better allies, better friends, better partners, which is something that we all, as social beings, want to be a part of. So it's good for business, but it's also just good for social and community health.